Hey everyone, it's Marcella. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the LSAT and how I increased my score 7 points, so stay tuned. First I want to say hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button so you'll get notifications every time I post. Let's talk about what is the LSAT. So the LSAT stands for Law School Admissions Test, and it's a standardized test that's administered by LSAC, which is the Law School Admissions Council. And right now, since we're in a pandemic, the exams are lsatflex, which will be online, but usually they're administered in an actual room full of, about 50 students. It's one of the requirements to actually apply to law school. Some schools are now accepting the GRE scores instead of the LSAT, but I still recommend you take the LSAT because you will limit yourself by taking the GRE. There are 6 sections, 2 sections that are logical reasoning, logic games, the reading comprehension, as well as the experimental section, which could be any of those 3 that I just named, and it's not graded, and the writing sample. The overall score ranges from 120 to 180, which is a perfect score. Before we get into what I did to study, I just want to give you some background on me. So I took the exam twice, once in June of 2017 and then once again in December of 2017. I was working full-time at that time, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I really had to set a study schedule for myself in order to stay on top of things. I also studied for 3 months. The first time I took it, I believe I studied for about 2 months, but this time I actually studied for 3 months. Next, I want to get into the study materials I used. I did not use a prep course, which a lot of people do. I just did not want to spend the money for that. A lot of those prep courses, they range from about $800 to well over $1,000, and it just was not in my budget. So I bought a lot of the materials online. I took in my undergrad a soft LSAT prep course, and they gave us some Princeton review materials from there. Cracking the LSAT, I believe, is one of the first books. I also had the Power Score books. They have one for each of those subjects, so logical reasoning, logic games, and reading comprehension. I bought the logic games book and the workbook, and I bought the reading comprehension book. I also bought from LSAC, well, I bought it on Amazon, but the LSAC has a book that has 10 actual LSAT prep tests, and I bought that as well as the book that explains all of the answers. Finally, I used phone apps as well to help during my downtime in order for me to get more drills in. So the first one I used was the LSAT Prep LSAT flashcards app. I used the 7 Sage LSAT Prep app, as well as the LSAT Practice Test and Flashcards app. That was my personal favorite. I did a lot of studying on that app, and it actually tells you, what you got wrong, the explanations for those answers as well. Now I want to talk about my study plan. Like I said before, I studied for 3 months. Since I was working full-time, I studied Monday through Friday for about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. That's when I first started reading books to see about strategies, because strategies are most important when taking this exam, one of the most important things. And I would do a lot of the drills as well as just individual sections of prep tests during those times. And on Saturdays, I would spend more time studying. I would do actual full-length practice exams where I use the 7 Sage app that has the proctor. I use that as well to just simulate an actual exam to get me used to that environment. And sometimes I would even go to the library and take those exams, so it'll be nice and quiet. So you just have to find ways to make sure you practice. One of the most important things you can also do is reading the actual explanations to the answers. A lot of people recommend that when you fill out a practice test. You'll make note of the answers that you weren't too sure of, and as well as look at the answers that you obviously got wrong, and look at those explanations. A lot of the questions have a pattern, so it's all about figuring out the patterns of the questions, what they're looking for to get the right answer. And the only way you can do that is actually read through the explanations and reflect on what you did wrong, why did you answer the way you did, because that's the only way to improve your score. Finally, I want to talk about tips. My first tip is do not wait till the last minute to study. The first time around, I didn't spend as much time studying, but like I said, I recommend 3 months of studying. That seems like the sweet spot for most people because it's not too long, but it's also not too short, and you have enough time to really go through everything. Next, as I've mentioned before, I recommend you taking multiple full-length practice exams. During those 3 months, I took one every other week, which can be very challenging for a lot of people and intense mentally, but I felt like it helped me improve my score because I was able to answer more questions during the timed portion and really get to learn the pattern of the questions. Another tip I have is reviewing the answers and explanations to the practice questions that you answer. Even for the drills, if you have the opportunity to look at the explanations, I recommend doing that, but especially when you take the full-length practice exams, because if you don't do that, you don't have a sense of direction. You're just taking exams and not really knowing where you need to improve, what you're already good at. For me, logic games, which for most people is very challenging, so I spent a lot of time studying for that. Next tip is really learning the strategies. So like I said before, which with a lot of other standardized tests as well, strategy is very important. You have to understand what the exam is looking for in answers, because a lot of the answers are very similar and that's where they get you. So it's a very challenging exam. You need to learn the strategies and the patterns of the different areas of the exam. My final tip is look at all of the LSAT prep courses websites for free resources. If you decided not to use a prep course, which is perfectly fine because a lot of people do it, or you decided to use a prep course, then this tip doesn't really apply to you. But if you decided to self-study, I definitely recommend looking at the different prep courses websites because they have a lot of free resources. Even LSAC will have free resources as well. It may be just one practice test, it may be some drills or some general information. I believe Princeton Review has a free course. Of course, it's not as intense as their paid review, but it is free and it's more resources for you to use. I recommend you looking at all of their websites, see what you can get from them for free. Still go out and buy those prep course books that I told you about, especially the Power Score books. Those are most important. It's not absolutely necessary for you to take a prep course, but if you feel like you can't do it on your own, even though I've given you the tools to do it at this point, then possibly take a paid prep course because you do want to score as high as possible in your case so that you can get scholarships from law schools and really stand out in applying to different law schools. If you all have any other questions about studying on your own for the LSAT, leave them down in the comment section and I will answer them. My final thing I would like to say is don't be discouraged. If you took the exam and you didn't get the score that you would like, there's always hope. You can retake the exam, follow some of the steps that I've given you. I guarantee you will increase your score. I'm a first generation law student, so a lot of things I just had to figure out on my own. So I know that it is possible because now I am in my 3rd year of law school. So don't be discouraged by, one time taking the exam and you didn't like it. You can always take it again and you can study a lot harder and give yourself more time to figure everything out. Thanks again for tuning into this video. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can get updates on when I post. Don't forget to follow me on social media on Instagram at @CelebellaSlay. On my channel, I post about law school, lifestyle, health, fitness, and beauty. So stay tuned to hear more from me. Remember, take care of yourselves and see you next time. Bye.